So hey guys, and welcome to another video, and this video is going to be all about the books that I read while I was away from BookTube and just thought I wanted to comment on. This is not going to be every book I have read since I've been away from BookTube because I think I've read about 60, but I thought I would mention the 4 books that I had the most thoughts on and would like to talk about on this channel. Cue intro. So the first book that I would like to talk about is The Girls by Emma Cline. This is sort of a fictional retelling of the Manson murder, and it involves a girl whose name escapes me as she sort of becomes enveloped in the cult of Manson. From a Manson point of view, this book is actually really good. It follows the murders sort of very well, and if you know anything about them, you sort of know what's coming, and it's interesting to see what the author has fictionalized and also taken from fact. Sadly though, the book is not all good. Our young narrator is 14 years old, and she very much acts like a 14-year-old girl. She's constantly telling you about how insecure she is, and she makes a fatal flaw for me for being one of those characters who constantly references herself as unpretty where everybody else thinks she's pretty, and you just sort of want to say, get over it, you're pretty, just deal with it. 14-year-old girl problems. The book also builds up to a sort of climactic finale where you see the very first murder committed by Manson, and it's just very, very anticlimactic. On Goodreads, when I read this, I gave it 3 stars, but I would actually knock that down to a 2 stars now. The second book I read is Every Heart is a Doorway by Seanan Maguire. This book deals with a sort of magical school for children who have been lost to other worlds. It's sort of hard to describe, but in this book you can basically be a teenager going about your normal life, and all of a sudden a door will appear, a tiny door, and if you walk through it you are transported into this magical land which gives you everything that you were looking for at that time. So you know, there's worlds of rainbows and there's worlds of death. Our main character actually goes to a fictional sort of Hades, and it's all really, really interesting. Because our characters are sent to this school for sort of rehabilitation into the new world, at first I thought there was sort of more of a dark and sinister turn to these worlds. It's mentioned that these children were lost or thought abducted in the real world while they were away in their magical worlds, and part of me for the first 100 pages assumed that these worlds were sort of their own creation as a way of dealing with their abuse or abduction. But after 100 pages it sort of becomes a straight up fantasy and almost murder mystery that sort of becomes very predictable and generic. I would still rate this book as worth reading. It does build an interesting world, and I know there's going to be a sequel or a prequel which deals with some of the characters in their own world, which I think will be a lot better than this one. Overall though, I gave this book 3.5 stars on Goodreads, and I would recommend it. The next book I wanted to talk about was What Belongs to You by Garth Greenwell. This book is gay adult literature, and it basically follows an English teacher who moves to Bulgaria to teach in a foreign language and falls in love with a hustler on the streets of Bulgaria. These books of falling in love with hustlers are a dime a dozen, and this one really doesn't separate itself out from the pack. I've also always thought it to be quite a lame story. It's just, I've never really gotten into those storylines. I don't see the point in them, or I just don't see the attraction there. It basically follows them through their semi-relationship and the ups and downs they have. Overall, I did not like this book, but I thought it was really well written. There are some scenes where, because our character is in a foreign country, there's language barriers. There's one particular scene at a sex clinic which is actually really hilarious, and I found those parts more interesting than the love plot, which just did not work for me. Overall, I would say this is a really well written but unoriginal story, and I think I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. The last book I want to talk to you about today is Queen of the Damned / The Vampire Lestat / Interview of the Vampire by Anne Rice. These are the first 3 books in an ongoing series which has very ardent fans who will read the books even though they're definitely not as good as they were. I started Interview with the Vampire knowing quite a lot because I've seen the movie, and honestly I think the first book is actually really good. It's very gothic and it feels like a good book. The way it spans time and also has this sort of love story between the main 2 male characters, and they adopt this little girl vampire. It's sort of like a really weird game of house, but I did enjoy it, so I moved on to The Vampire Lestat, which was written in the 80s and very much feels like a book from the 80s. In this one, Lestat is now a gothic rock star, and I will admit that it just has not aged well from the time period it was created in, but overall I still enjoyed it, and that moved me on to Queen of the Damned, which is the biggest book in the series so far, and also the worst. In this one, the cast of characters is sort of expanded upon. The actual story of Lestat awakening the king and queen of vampires was really good, and I like the imagery and stuff like that. But at this point the series was starting to go a bit downhill for me. It's also about 600 pages and it felt like 600 pages, even though I did sort of like it. Overall, I think I give that one 2 stars. And I'm not sure if I'm going to carry on with the next entries in the series. If anyone has read what's to come, please leave some comments below and basically just let me know if I should continue. That wraps up the 4 books, or 6 books I guess, that I would like to talk about today. Since being away from BookTube, I have lost access to my book Instagram account that I think many of you followed me on, so I basically just wanted to put a tiny little plug, and the link will be left down below if you would like to follow me on that. I basically just put a photo of every book that I'm reading, so you will just basically get spoilers for my videos. I feel like I've really rattled on in this video, so I'm just gonna call it that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up as always, and I shall see you soon for another one. Goodbye!